From the Joy News Center. This is News at 8.
Coming up in the bulletin tonight, nurses and midwives at Korle Bu Teaching Hospital back down on threat to strike over poor working conditions. Would recap week of flaring tempers and mathematics at the Supreme Court in the election petition hearing and get some clarity about why counting as done at elementary school is different from one ordered by the Supreme Court. Security chiefs, meanwhile, say the country is safe despite recent rampant fires and brazen killings. Also in the bulletin, businessman Alfred Wome vows to expose some persons in the NDC, he says, are scheming to get him out of the party. And Freemasons, a group known for being so quiet to the point they are described as a secret society, are opening up about who they really are. We also have business, sports, showbiz, and the dramatic rescue from the ruins of Dhaka, 17 days after the mall collapse, coming up in international news.
News at 8 with Israel Lai.
Now, very first story, a meeting by security chiefs has concluded there is no threat to the country's peace and stability. The meeting was prompted by, among others, the recent fires, Ashtown murders and deaths resulting from illegal mining operations. It also comes after recent police reports suggesting a reduction in crime rates.
In attendance were the National Security Coordinator, Chief of Defence Staff, Inspector General of Police, Interior Minister, BNI operatives, NADMO, and directors of Immigration Service, Prison Service, and fire officers. Briefing the media after the session, Information Minister Mahama Ayariga would not give details, but gave a general overview of the discussions he says touched on Galamsey activities, prevention of further fires at marketplaces and other public spaces, dealing with gangsterism, and national response to emergency situations.
The incident in Kumasi, of course, was also discussed, and some indications given as to the outcome of some investigations. Of course, you don't expect that details will be provided at this forum because it could prejudice further work on it, but briefings were provided and some indications given to the Chief of Staff regarding going forward how to deal with that and the causes.
On the recent fires in the capital, the minister said investigations are still ongoing, but for now, joint surveillance by the fire service and police would continue.
With the fires, the fire service provided some indications of work that is taking place in terms of investigating the causes of the fires and measures that they are taking to deal with those ones. For instance, they have started working with the Ghana Police Service to increase the surveillance around markets. The police service started the patrols around the markets, but there was a need to do it with the fire service because it became obvious that the fire service will be able to give the police some better pointers as to where to carry out surveillance if you want to check fire outbreak in a market.
On Galamsey, he noted areas such as legislative frameworks, involvement of foreigners, and technology applications were discussed.
The issues regarding environmental impact assessments and the monitoring and enforcement of the standard set for those who have been given permits. And there's also the issue of the use of non-Ghanaians by people who actually have concessions there's been some discussions strategically, broadly looking at how to deal with a problem like that and determining which agencies must be doing what. So the conclusion clearly is that the situation is calm. And
Mr. Ayariga hinted, though it was a lengthy and detailed discussion, the focus was to do a systemic study of security and how to prevent and manage any unforeseen circumstances. Gifty Andopia, Joy News.
UN Secretary General Kofi Annan has said tax avoidance, secret mining deals and financial transfers are depriving Africa of the benefits of its resources boom. This was contained in a report produced by a panel headed by nurses at the nation's premier teaching hospital have rescinded the decision to withdraw their services in a week. The health workers threatened to withdraw their services yesterday if their demand for better conditions of service are not met. After a crunch meeting today, the concerned nurses and midwives say they have reached an amicable settlement with management.
A press release jointly signed by the Public Relations Officer of the Korle Bu Teaching Hospital and leader of the concerned nurses group states that management and leadership of the concerned nurses have reached an amicable agreement on resolving the concerns raised by the group. Hospital authorities say a roadmap to deal with the concerns raised by the group has been rolled out. The statement also indicates the hospital will concentrate on addressing issues and those that are outside its purview would be directed to stakeholders mandated to deal with them. Spokesperson for the group, Ali Dantani Joseph, told Joy News in a telephone interview that even though they have signed a memorandum of understanding with management, they are yet to receive an official response. He was hopeful the response will be out by Tuesday.
The pressure on facilities at the police hospital appears not to have waned despite the end of the month-long industrial action by doctors.
It's been 2 days since the doctors called off their strike, but the situation has not changed that much. According to the hospital's public relations officer, ASP Juliana Obing, the pediatric unit is still recording about 1,000 patients, the same number they had during the strike, adding, all measures they introduced to contain the pressure are still in place.
The story hasn't changed, like I said. If you go around the hospital, you realize that the plans that we activated to contain the emergency are still in session. You see the mobile clinic still running. We still have people on admission there. If you go to the old OPD, which we converted into a ward, it is still also in operation. And the medical and non-medical staff that we recalled back from leave are still working. Reason being that there's still pressure on the facility.
ASP Juliana Obing attempts to explain why the situation may be so.
You can attribute it to the fact that I think that we did so pretty well during the strike, and so most people have fallen in love with the kind of services that were delivered at the time that they came. And apart from that, there are also patients who are not properly okay. I mean, patients who are not still very okay, who still need medical attention, and so are still under our care, which we would discharge as and when we think that they are okay. And then again, you attribute it to the fact that people are still not aware that the doctors are back. So generally, here at the police hospital, the story is not so very different. There's still pressure on the facility. We are hoping that by next week, a week or two, things would have settled and then would have the police hospital back to its normal state.
Joy News has, however, learned there's been a decrease in the number of new patients.
Government has secured a $290 million loan facility from the Brazilian government to finance the construction of the Uti Damanko Kulungu Road. Minister of Roads and Highways Alhaji Amin Amidu Sulemana, during a tour of the facility, said the contract for the project will be signed by the end of this month for work to begin. The 209-kilometer stretch in northern Ghana forms part of the Eastern Corridor roads.
The 800-kilometer Eastern Corridor Road project stretches from Tema through Hohoi in the Volta region before ending at Kulungugu in the Upper East region. The road, which is to serve as the alternate route for passengers traveling between southern Ghana and the north, is currently in a terrible state. 2 lots of the 800-kilometer road project, the Esikuma Hohoi and Nkwanta Oti Damanko sections, have already been awarded and are under construction. During a 4-day visit to inspect progress of work, the sector minister explained the road remains a priority to government as it would ease the pressure and traffic on the Accra-Kumasi road.
We're looking at all our major construction works going on here, both those on the Ghana government budget and those foreign-funded projects. The idea is to look down and see, encourage the contractors, see the quality of work they are doing on, make sure that we get value for money in the works, and that is actually why we are out in the field. To make sure that the contractors are working to specifications. Our money is not going to be just thrown the drain after one word. If we look at most of the major roads we have in the past, that is what the difficulty we have. We construct a road at a very high cost, and within 2 years it's failing. That is unacceptable, and these are the things that we want to going around with our engineers, letting them know that supervision is very important. At the same time, also letting the contractors know that they must do a good job.
The European Union, together with government, is also assisting with the construction of the Kpando Rara Dambai, Tamale Salaga, Techimankintampo, and the 45-kilometer Nkwanta Dodi Pepeso road.
We are 8 months into the project. Percentage is about 14%. Yes. It's on the low side, but then when the pavement works take off, then the progress will rise rapidly. So far we are around 14.
We've laid 51.4 kilometers out of 70 kilometers for sub-base, and base course laid is 45.4 kilometers out of 70 kilometers. Primary sealed is 43.8 kilometers out of 70, and first seal is 38 kilometers. Second seal, it's 6.1 kilometers.
Roads Minister Alhaji Suleiman promised to immediately engage Cabinet on the matter to ensure all projects on the stretch are completed on time.
All contracts are signed with time, but as I said, there are challenges of payment. There are other challenges resulting to acquisition of sites and materials. So there are lots. So it's really extremely difficult in, let me say, in underdeveloped countries or third world countries to tie contractors to time. Even the foreign-funded projects, these are the projects and EU funding. Sure, the contractor is behind schedule. There are a lot of factors that come into play, like the weather and all those things. Yeah. So you can't tie time to most of these things. Even though we wish that they were time-bound, we are constrained by other factors beyond our control.
Former Nigerian Head of State Major Yakubu Gowon has called on President John Mahama at the Flagstaff House. The former head of state is in the country to attend an anti-money laundering conference on Saturday. Government has since 2010 been working for the scrapping of Ghana on the international money laundering blacklist, a feat which was only recently achieved. The conference by the Intergovernmental Action Group Against Money Laundering in West Africa is a platform for member states, including Ghana, to discuss approaches to anti-money laundering systems in the region. Major Gowon headed a federal military government in Nigeria from 1966 to 1975. The director of the Earth Institute at Columbia University, Jeffrey Sachs, was also at the Flagstaff House to pay a courtesy call on President Mahama. The two are said to have discussed Jeffrey Sachs' role as advisor to the president and other issues, including the Millennium Projects and other development initiatives. Jeffrey Sachs is a non-paid advisor to presidents of developing countries, including Ghana. He also advises the UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon on the Millennium Development Goals. We're taking a break. We have more news coming up. Don't go away. Week 3 of the ongoing election petition has been more of the same reproduction of pink sheets and repetition of phrases, except for the flare-up of tensions requiring the intervention of the justices to calm tempers. Curtis Howard recaps the 4 days of hearing, which culminated in the Supreme Court ordering a head count of the pink sheets tendered in as exhibits by the petitioners.
The justices started the week unhappy.
about comments suggesting they were timid.
For instance, when we delivered the Monarch case, perhaps we were wrong. But that was our decision. But certain articles that were on the website describing the judges as timid, etc., it's not healthy for the development of the law. It is not proper. That's all we wish to say. We are reluctantly saying these things because we know of the responsibility that we all owe to the Ghanaian society. All of us, the legal system, to do this case in a manner that shows civility. And so please, we urging you to be circumspect and use language that is civil, that shows some courtesy to the court.
Counsel for the third respondent then continued with his cross-examination of Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, the star witness of the petitioners, in his attempt to take a dig at his credibility. The petitioner's lead counsel would, however, not allow Chachu Chikata to have a field day, but his frequent interjections at some point seem to have rubbed his learned friend on the other side the wrong way.
My lord, so what's the relevance of these questions? I'm sorry, Lord.
Now, can you explain the irrelevance?
The people who were present who stamped these documents is relevant.
These irregularities that we are finding on the face of the exhibits have a lot of significance.
Is counsel addressing the court?
And can you shut up?
I thought you're supposed to be cross-examining the witness.
I can. Yes. Can you let me finish, my lord? It's clear that if there were other people.
My lord, these rude words that counsel has been using, we're capable of replying. And I think that the court should call on him to use more decorous language and withdraw. We are capable of replying it. You should know that.
These interruptions are really unnecessary. And I think they're very trying.
But the court did not quite give Mr. Addison what he had hoped for, an outright reprimand of Chachu Chikata. Instead, the presiding justice sought to play the peacemaker.
Please, let's go back to the rules of the game. All complaints should be addressed to the bench for appropriate redress.
Chikata on Tuesday continued his cross-examination of Dr. Bawumia with a fair share of interjections by Philip Addison. The justices at some point had to rule on objections to the introduction of pink sheets the petitioners said were outside what was known to the court. Lead counsel for the petitioners, Philip Addison, on Wednesday raised yet another objection when yet another new pink sheet was introduced by the respondents.
I'm going to ask you to identify. I cannot identify. I'm going to ask you to identify another pink sheet in respect of a polling station, fire service station of Finsto, and I'm going to ask you whether it was in the 24,000 and that you examined. I'm going to ask you to identify that. Please.
And he succeeded this time.
Well, I'm wondering whether our counsel wants to defy the court, because this is a matter that was ruled on yesterday. This morning, clarity has been given to this issue, and he's not raising it again. Is he defying the court? Because I don't understand what's going on here. Why is he insisting on bringing in pink sheets outside the 11,842 that is contention in this court?
Then came Mathematical Thursday, where the court was compelled to do some quick arithmetic after counsel for the third respondent, Chachu Chikata, insisted the petitioners did not supply all the pink sheets they wanted annulled with their affidavit.
But the evidence shows that in 11,819 polling stations of the total of 11,842. If we have not received, and that includes the 23 unknown polling stations, so if we have not received pink sheets in respect of 11,842, then we are handicapped.
He was, however, not satisfied and insisted on his application for a head count, which the court, after a nearly 2-hour recess, granted.
Well, Joy News has learned the Supreme Court has formally written to the accounting firm appointed to conduct a head count of the pink sheets tendered in evidence to support the petitioner's case in the election petition hearing. We're also told KPMG has received a formal request and that it will issue a formal reply to the court sometime next week, following which they will put a team together for the exercise. For now, They're unwilling to say how much it is going to cost, even though a figure in the range of $100,000 has been suggested by some persons who have an understanding of what goes into these considerations. And in the studio right now is one such person, Sidney Casely-Hayford. He is a financial consultant, and primarily he is a chartered accountant, yes, with a lot of experience with these accounting and auditing firms, so he knows the subject very well. Good evening and welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's start off with the range. They're talking about, what, $100,000? Is that what they're likely to pay?
We should try and be clear on what we're going to do. If all we are going to do is a head count, which is counting sheets of paper, I could probably put together maybe 12 JHS students from Akotolante JHS, and they could count that in 30 minutes. And we would have the final count, okay, because it can't take more than 30 seconds to count, 30 minutes to count 1,000 sheets
exactly
of paper. So if it's just a head count, it's not that complex, and it shouldn't take that kind of money.
So what makes it so complex?
I think by extended interpretation, we are probably looking at counting the sheets first of all, then looking out for duplicated sheets, triplicated sheets, or quadruplicate sheets, as Mr. Chachu Chiketa will have it. Then we are also going to then look at whether or not the way in which the petitioners have presented their petition, in that batches that go towards overvoting, batches that go to biometric verification, registration, etc.
Are they actually going to go into that detail? I thought it was just going to be a head count.
The first thing you're going to have to do is they need to get back to the Supreme Court and ask for very, very clear terms of reference.
Okay.
No auditor in his right state of mind will actually start a job when he doesn't have clearly stated for him exactly what the scope is. The scope will determine what the price is going to be. So they'll definitely do this.
So for now, we're thinking that it's just going to be a head count. But when the auditors get the clarification, it may be different.
It may be different. So I think what should happen is next week, as they say, when they go back to the Supreme Court, they will then be told, okay, this is exactly what we want you to do. They are probably going to have to verify the numbers, then look at the exhibits as they've been bashed, make sure that every one of them has an exhibit number and is actually in place. That might take a longer time, and that might take a little bit more visual integrity to be able to ascertain. So that might take a longer time, and auditors will bill you by the hour per the rate. So that's how
if it just has to do with counting, I mean, people will be wondering why $100,000, and is it so much about whatever goodwill they have acquired, the name they have acquired? That is why they would be charging that much?
Well, yes, because there's a certain risk involved here. If they make a mistake, that will go a long way to discredit them in the future to come. If they count and there's a recount and it turns out that their number is not right, that presents a problem. So they will factor in the risk involved, the political risk involved as well, because it's a high-profile issue, and they will factor all that into their pricing. However, this is such an important case. I don't think that KPMG will lose out if they did an assignment for this at rock bottom price. The profile, the dignity of being asked to actually be the arbiter of everything that is being done at this precise time is fantastic for PR.
In other words, you subscribe to those who say that KPMG should probably do this for gratis.
I would do it for free. If I was KPMG, I would do this for free. Because first of all, it's not that complicated. One, it won't take a complex amount of integrity to know exactly what to do. Secondly, the profile you get by doing this and the position in which we are in this country, the fact that we're actually going through this democratic process and you have been selected by the Supreme Court of the country to actually be the one who determines whether these numbers are right or wrong, is good enough for me to use and leverage that going forward in the future. I would take it and I would use it and I would leverage it in the future to come.
Why would you take it for the political risk and not charge anything? Because at the end of the day, if it happens that something goes wrong, you're going to take the fall for it.
Yes.
That's why you need to be compensated adequately.
Well, no amount of compensation will cover up for a mistake if you make it. The mistake would be, to use a better word, such a gargantuan mistake that you wouldn't even recover from that for years to come. So it won't be any difference if you do it for free. But the stigma, that you picked up $100,000 and you couldn't count 11,842 sheets is not the place I would like to be. So for me, I would do it, as a pro bono issue, but I would do it with high integrity. I would position myself in such a way that it would be such an important decision at the end of the day. Okay. And it would be the thing to do.
Thank you very much, Sydney. You had Sydney Casely Hayford. He is a financial consultant, joining us to give us some clarity on the Great Pink Sheet count. In other stories, the Freemasons, known casually as lodges, widely perceived as a secret society, with others actually describing them as a cult. A lot has been said about them, especially about what goes on when they get together. The society, however, says a lot of the things said about them are untrue, and have decided to now come out and tell their story. Ochasuo Osai Nyampong VI, Kwamina Hene of the Ekwamu traditional area and Grand Master-elect of the Grand Lodge of Ghana, in an exclusive interview with Gladys Ose-Redu, says they are just a regular group with regular rules.
Freemasonry is a fraternal organization that arose from the loose organization of medieval masons working in the medieval building industry. The Freemasons lineage goes back to King Solomon days when the group was started. Starting tonight, Freemasons and the Grand Lodge of Ghana is marking 3-day inaugural celebrations as they swear into office as Grand Master-elect Ochasuo Osai Nyampong VI, and the media has the pass to get a bit closer to some of their formalities. My visit to Grand Master-elect is simple. Why are the Freemasons allowing cameras this time round? Growing up, there's been this perception about Freemasons. And I wish to use this opportunity to also get educated about that perception that it's kind of occultic. Is it really true?
Nothing could be farther from the truth. Freemasonry is not, may I repeat, not a secret society. You know where we meet, don't you? We write our names on our meeting halls. These days, with the advent of the net, you can read a lot about Freemasonry, and maybe you get more educated than me, because maybe I don't read that much. It has never been a secret society, but as a society with a limited membership, we have, shall we say, greetings or signs of recognizing each other. That is all. If you are not a member of the session of any church, when they are meeting, they will never admit you into it. So, similarly, when Freemasons are meeting and you are not a member, we will not admit you into our meeting.
Nana Nyampong has been a member of Freemasons for the past 30 years. He explains that the fraternity keeps secrets for particular reasons, which he shares with us.
If you were a member, I would.
Why wouldn't you if I am not a member?
I told you it's a sign of recognizing members. So if you are not a member, I would not be able to teach you. I'm sorry. Never a religion. Indeed, at your interview for admission, the first question that we probably will ask you is, in your hour of difficulty and danger, in whom do you put your trust?
Businessman Alfred Wome says he will soon expose persons within the NDC scheming to get him out of the party. He was speaking at a news conference call to react to the appeal he lost and other matters relating to the judgment that paid him. The Court of Appeal, in a unanimous decision yesterday, upheld the decision of the Commercial Court to allow the state to introduce evidence of fraud in the payment of 51.2 million Ghana cedis to him on the basis that the agreement that saw him being paid the money was not sacrosanct and could be set aside.
So if there's culpability, I am not after anybody. Because
sometimes it's practically impossible to go and hold the whole opposition and government and say you are jailing them for one thing or the other. People voted for them. So the law must do, so that we learn from here. I'm not after that. But some people within the NDC also actually hyped this and said he's targeting you guys. So join me, let's fight him. Because they are afraid of their own shadow. They know why they did what they did. We will come there. What are they afraid of? We will come there.
Embattled businessman Alfred Wome says he will soon expose persons within the ruling National Democratic Congress busy working to disgrace him. Alfred Wome is currently in court battling the state over allegations he received an amount of 51 million Ghana cedis as judgment debt for doing no work. Speaking to journalists at his residence, Alfred Wome said he still remains a member of the NDC and will only leave when the party abandons its social democratic principle.
What kind of demon has possessed people in this country that they don't want their own colleagues to help in building this country far ahead? Why? They refused me. But you know, pastors have even taken their salaries, contributed. A lot of churches, I cannot mention it. A lot of people within the NDC and MPP bring me food here. Yes, on a daily basis. You find people bringing everything from the north to the south. And a lot of mosques from Tamale to Kumasi, some bring me cow, everything. Why? Two political parties join together against one man. Ghanaians will want to know why. The truth, there is a lot of truth in scratch your back, I scratch on my back. And you wait, let's go through the whole thing, and then let's see. I believe that the judges of this country are truthful, they are developing the law, and the law will go. I believe in the professionalism of a lot of lawyers, but sometimes I almost like fall dead when I hear some of the lawyers making certain talks into the political free whereby they don't want to help in developing the law and the right of the people of this country.
Alfred Wome also used a press conference to address what he called a misleading reportage in the media over the appeals court's decision on Thursday to uphold a commercial court ruling over the payment of a 51 million Ghana cedis judgment debt.
Again, even at the last plus here, they agree here that fraud. I have, according to Wome, the state could raise the issues of fraud, but argue that it could not raise any other issues. If this were part of my plea, which you have reported again, then what constituted the first paragraphs and all that one? What are you trying to achieve?
Wome is standing trial for causing financial loss to the state to the tune of 51.2 million Ghana cedis judgment debt paid to him.
The ongoing election petition hearing is coming for some bashing for its impact on the economy, with the loudest critics suggesting the live coverage is adversely affecting productivity, even though that has been widely discounted. But then, could the case in the same manner impact the otherwise impressive performance of the Ghana Stock Exchange? Abigail Adomaku-Entry has been seeking some answers for the people who should know.
The bourse recorded an impressive performance in the first quarter of this year, hitting an index of about 53%, making it the best in the West African sub-region. But could the uncertainty as to the outcome slow down activity and drive down trading volumes and values? The analysts say it is early days yet for an infant market like Ghana's to respond to information such as what is coming from the Supreme Court.
In the short term, we might not feel the fluctuations, in the court, happening at the stock market. But the issue is, will it affect it in the long term? Will we feel it in the long term? And that is where most of us analysts, our fear is. My reason for saying this is that it depends on how we, as interpreters of the issues happening in the court, how journalists report it, and how the government is able to show in the external investors that this economy is still the safe haven that we all know.
For them, opening up the stock market and making it more attractive to investors is critical.
Now that we have a lot of SMEs and emerging, huge companies, large companies in the country, providing a conduit through the alternative investment market for SMEs to be listed and raise long-term capital is a laudable idea that I think the security that the SEC should continue to deepen to allow those companies to raise long-term capital and to attract people, investors to participate more in the market.
Managers of the stock market also agree.
For us, I believe it's more to do with perception and questions being asked. The listed companies have performed incredibly well in 2012 and the first quarter 2013. On the back of that, we also have fund managers investing. That's fund managers under the Tier 2 pension scheme investing in the market. People know that Ghana's democracy has come of age. And so when you put some of these factors into the cauldron, you naturally will expect that confidence will still be high.
Mr. Kofi Yamwa adds, the stock market will perform even better if the macroeconomic challenges in the system are addressed.
We have a situation where the individual retail investors, on the back of what the performance was in 2012 and what we're seeing in the first quarter of 2013, are turning attention to the stock market. So hopefully we believe that the macroeconomic challenges that Ghana faces will ease a little bit in terms of interest rates, in terms of the negative CD-dollar relationship that we saw in 2012, not happening in 2013, and the fact that the exchange rates, interest rate, inflation will also favor the development of the stock market.
The election petition hearing may affect some economic structures, but clearly the stock market is the least of them, at least for the time being. But how public expectations of this democratic feat is managed remains crucial in ensuring economic stability. Abigail Admakwenchi for Joy News.
The Bank of Ghana says it will soon give its final approval for the takeover of Merchant Bank by First Round of South Africa. The central bank, in a statement copied to Joy Business, said in principle it had no objection to the takeover. It, however, says there have been some public interest concerns which are being resolved by SNIT, Merchant Bank and First Bank. The regulator asked that they believe these concerns will be addressed soon to pave way for the approval. The Bank of Ghana also in the statement confirmed receiving and reviewing an application for a 75% stake in Merchant Bank by First Round. South Africa's second biggest financial group, First Round, wants to buy the 75% stake in Merchant Bank for 176.4 million Ghana cedis. Up next, we bring you some smart investment tips.
Sports is brought to you in association with.
Time for the very latest in the world of sports. My name is George Addy Jr. Let's start with the MTN FA Cup.
And Asante Kotoko will play away from home in the semi-final stage of the MTN FA Cup following this afternoon's draw to determine the match venues. The Porcupine Warriors will use the Accra Sports Stadium when they battle Amidas Professionals on June the 2nd for a place in the final. Accra Hearts of Oak will head in the opposite direction to Kumasi, the home grounds of their dreaded rivals Kumasi Asante Kotoko, for the other last 4 games on the same day. The Phobians play Mediama at the Barbera Sports Stadium, and according to the FA Cup committee, the semi-final matches, which will be played on the same day, will now start simultaneously. The fixture in Accra and Kumasi will kick off at exactly 3 p.m. Let's do boxing now. An experienced boxing ring official, Ataide Papu, says boxing officials in the country are up to the task and has debunked suggestions the standard of officiating is below par. Recent incidents in the last few weeks, which have resulted in the indefinite suspension of experienced referee Roger Bano, have sparked talk of how big officials mind the sport in the country. But Ataide Papu, who is a part of the disciplinary committee of the Ghana Boxing Authority, says it's unfair to judge these officials with a one-off event.
We had one particular case, and you cannot, judge all the officials by one bad day, for one of the ring officials. I think we have very competent ring officials here, and we keep upgrading ourselves. So I think things will be okay. You have no fears at all. We've put some sanctions already out for those who were indisciplined. Like the referee who committed those mistakes, and then the boxer who refused to come to the ring. I think the sanctions have been placed on them, and I think we are moving towards the right direction.
Right, that'll be all for sports. My name is George Adi Jr. Israel will join us with Showbiz. Make sure you enjoy your weekend.
Sports was brought to you.
And midwives at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital have backed down on a threat to strike over poor working conditions. We'll be recapping a week of flaring tempers in mathematics at the Supreme Court in the election petition hearing. Security chiefs say the country is safe despite recent rampant fires and brazen killings. Businessman Alfred Wome has vowed to expose some persons in the NDC, he says, are scheming to get him out of the party. And Freemasons, a group known for being so quiet to the point they are described as a secret society, are saying they are not who people say they are. That's it for the bulletin. For more news, log on to myjoyonline.com. Have a good evening. My name is Israel Live.